Wisdom Show, my NHL Pearls of Wisdom Show, my NHL Pearls of Wisdom, the Pearl of Wisdom Show. You can see it right on that fine banner that Hockey News did for me. Awesome job. Looks good. Looks good, looks good.
Yeah, it looks great. He does amazing stuff. He created my Phantoms, the Lion and Strom banner that I use for my Phantoms podcast, and I'm going to get him to do some others for that Phantoms podcast.
We're going to have to start tossing that kid some scratch.
Yeah, I also told him he can be on whatever he wants to be. If he wants to be on a video, I did that through Twitter, so whenever he wants to pop on anything, you're more than welcome. Jacket, how's it doing? I saw you responded to one of my videos. I appreciate you watching them. And Elliot, how you doing? Oh, there's echo.
Yeah, I'm gonna fix that right now.
We're fixing it, Elliot. Thanks for the heads up. We really appreciate it, and I hope you are well.
I thought I had all the NDI sources off, but apparently not. Okay.
Is the echo good now, Jacket and Elliot? We tried to fix it. That's just our typical technical issues here at Pearlo Wisdom Industries. Every day that we start the video, we got a mini technical glitch we got to get.
It wouldn't be an intro
without a technical glitch, exactly. But yeah, that logo, I mean, your host Pearlo, visit our website, steal flyers, hit the bell, live chat, subscribe. That's awesome that he was able to put all that into one. That's very sick looking with the welcome to the NHL Pearlo Wisdom Show. Thanks, Jacket. We really appreciate you. And also, for people on here, there is a process, but we should throw it out there, as Steele said, which we didn't do in our past video. If you want to appear on videos, there's a process, but there's a way to do it and a way to come on that we keep forgetting to also do that. That Steele will probably beat our behinds if we keep forgetting to do. So figured I'll throw that out there. There's a process to do that. But for my podcast itself, for my channel, there is not a process other than I want to talk to you on Skype once before I have you on a show. Other than that, that's the process there. For the whole Steele Flyers, that's a talk to Steele thing. And glad to hear that you're well. He said it sounds better now. There might be a minor echo, I guess, because he says it sounds better.
Yeah, it's good, Jacket says. Okay. Okay, Jacket. Okay, what's this goal, the no goal? Somehow I missed it. For no goal against DeBrusque in the Rangers-Boston game. Did you see it? Do you know what he's talking about?
The Rangers-Boston game is honestly the one that I didn't see most of, so I can't tell you either. I would have to go by Jacket for that. That I saw highlights more than the game itself.
I'll have to look it up, Jacket. Sorry about that. Wednesday night, I watch every game, so I'm flipping back and forth and watching everything, so I don't see everything all the time. I'll have to look. We'll have to look that up. But anywho, what's it? Elliot's talking about. Brought up the Islanders and the Vegas games last night. We'll talk about that for sure. They screwed me too. But we'll definitely go in. It was a clear goal. I know. Only one that I know is the
It was a clear goal for Boston or for New York?
Boston, I imagine, if you're saying DeBrusque goal.
Hold on, I'm trying to see on the NHL app if it's part of condensed, like the highlight thing they show. That's what I'm watching right now. If it's part of that highlight reel that they put on an NHL app. Because if it is, I'll be able to tell you in a second. But otherwise, we could talk about something else while I'm waiting for that to pop up.
Yeah, well, I mean, why don't we talk about, before we go into the games today, why don't you go on about, you've been doing a lot of AHL stuff. And you're saying Jarvis for, what's Carolina's AHL
Chicago
team there? Chicago Wolves. That wasn't always the case. So you're saying that Jarvis is kicking ass over there. The Jarvis was pick of the Carolina Hurricanes this past draft. And yes, the great Jamie Basco and I talked pretty glowingly about him. We're surprised that he fell as far as he did. But he's got 6 points in 4 games or something like that.
Yeah, he has 6 points the other way around. 6 points in 4 games. You're right. 4 goals, 2 assists. He kind of like I said before the video, because the reason I use Skinner, obviously, if you use Skinner now, people don't love that because he's paid $9 million for no reason. But when he was in Carolina, he actually was aggressive, the goal scorer, the guy that doesn't have the best size, but would always figure out ways to. He has better size than Jarvis, but still doesn't have the best size, but would always figure out ways to score. Jarvis, even at a smaller size, looks like that aggressive, able to just kind of go through you. And he almost looks like a more skilled version of Travis Konechny, where he's able to kind of go through guys. He's more aggressive than I actually thought he was watching him in younger. Now watching him in the AHL, like you said before the video, no back down by him. You see that in full force. He already has a 4 penalty minutes. He's been aggressive. He's been a +3. He's been good on both ends. Actually, he's looked all right. And he's obviously been very good offensively, which is his cup of tea. That's what he gets paid the bucks for when he's going to get paid the bucks in the league. So he's the guy that's obviously out of Winnipeg. So maybe eventually he'll make a hometown return in the distant future. But that's something way down the line. But with Carolina, he brings just another great skilled player into a lineup with a bunch of good young guys. And I know you and I already like Nakis, who's out. Me and you both are fans of. You got McGinn there that looks like he's ridiculous in Carolina. Brock McGinn has like I think a 4 game goal streak or something like that. So like he's going off. So you already have a lot of talent level in that system, plus a bunch of guys I didn't mention. Svechnikov who can score a lacrosse goal whenever the hell he feels like it. So you have all the talent in that system already. Bringing in a guy like Jarvis and another guy, and Ryan Suzuki, also looks fairly solid in the AHL level. Obviously, is another former draft pick of the Carolina Hurricanes. You're just adding more and more talent to a team. He's more looking like a playmaker right now than a scorer, but adding more and more talent to a team that definitely doesn't even need it. So you're just kind of getting an embarrassment of riches when it comes to the forwards of the Carolina Hurricanes with the guys that are coming up. And they already have a solid defense. Obviously, got Bean in. They have one of the best defenses in the league. All they need is a goaltender, and they're obviously a consistent, let alone cup contender. Maybe this sport gets thrown around a little bit too easily, but they might be a middle small market dynasty.
Well, they could be. They could be. They certainly have, and we'll get into that team here in a second too. So I don't want to go too far into it. But yeah, I love Jarvis, and another one you remember I talked about, and I kind of wanted the Philadelphia Flyers to take a look at him, but I kind of understand their pick. But a lot of people should have, as far as I'm concerned, was Noel Gunler, and Carolina picked him up in the second round. So, I mean, they could be absolutely sick in the next little while. It's ridiculous. Great
Yeah.
drafting. Their draft and development system was built by the great
Also, a
Ron
guy
Francis,
like
and
Joey Keane has looked really good as well for the Wolves.
yeah,
He's been facilitating. He has 4 assists. He's aggressive himself with the 8 pound. He'll back down from
yeah.
nobody. And he's a good.
And
Yeah, Bean's there.
Jake Bean there
Yeah,
is
that'll be
playing
annoying if
now.
they ever
Yeah,
get paired together. Like I said, imagine having Keane to Bean, back to Keane, back to Bean, back to Keane. Oh wait, no, I'm
yeah,
sorry, my fault. That was Jake Bean actually. Um, so like, but anyway, that they look like they're two very good guys coming together. Last year he had 22 points, the or excuse me, he had 22 assists, the 8 goals and 22 points. Joey Keane for 30 points. Um, he is a guy that just seems to be developing a great. He probably honestly on another team would already be in the NHL to be quite
yeah,
honest. But with Carolina, they have a deep defense. They don't need him. If he was on Philly, he sure as hell. I understand we have a defense people like, but Eric Gustafsson would not be playing if we had Joey Keane
yeah.
in
J-
system. So like that, that's an
Jake Bean probably would have been up in the NHL sooner too.
Jake Bean would have
Look
been
at
up
how
by
long it
playing.
took Hayden Fleury to
Yeah,
play a full
you
time
wouldn't
role
have
though.
signed. We wouldn't have signed Eric Gustafsson if we had Jake Bean, or at least we better not have signed Eric
I would
Gustafsson.
certainly hope not.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so that's just
But
an example
Carolina
there.
signed Jake Gardner when they had Jake Bean in there, so that's weird.
Also, Carolina's kind of the defense. We talk about LA being defense whisperers. They have gotten more than I thought they would get out of Gardner. It's not that
It's
he's been
true.
amazing,
That's true.
but they have
He,
gotten more than I thought out of Gardner that they would get out
yeah,
of Gardner.
he's
Like the Kings always get more than you think out of everybody. So they seem to be the other defense whisperer. If you need to get your defense in check, go to Carolina or go to the
yeah. Well, we'll
Kings.
get to those guys in a second. We're going to get off to the games here now. The first one we're going to talk about, I'm going to do so with gritting teeth because they pissed me off. Penguins versus the Islanders. I had the Islanders ML and the under. So that was lovely. 3-2 with 35 seconds left. And guy we were talking about yesterday. See, that's what happens when we top smack. Sir Malkin was um, he was listening obviously, and I know you're listening now
Yeah.
too. I know you are, and you're sitting there going, "What are they going to say now?" Well, we're going to say, "You find time to piss me off." Could have scored any other time but there. And anyways, my clients lost a little money. So, did you watch this game, my friend?
Yeah, I've watched. So that was one of the games I paid attention to a bit. I mean, that was a game that unfortunately went to the dreaded shootouts that both of us are not the biggest fans, not fans of that at all.
Yeah.
Actually, let me not sugarcoat that. And then, but yeah, I mean that's just how it's been. The guys you've been trash talking, Matt Duchene's been on an absolute tear since. We have maybe we have that IT effect, like the baseball show Intentional Talk. When they talk people up and bring them on, they do great. We just have to say you're struggling, and then all of a sudden you're the best thing since sliced bread.
Wait a sec. Before we go
Because
on, we have something very important here. Daniel
go
Landgren.
ahead.
I don't think he's ever been on here. Everybody hype up Daniel Landgren. How you doing, my friend? Welcome to the live. Talk amongst yourselves. Tell us what you're saying. We're talking about the Islanders Pittsburgh game right now. Sorry, keep on going, bud.
Yeah. With the Pittsburgh Isles game, it's been like that, guys. We've talked down. Duchesne's been on a tear the past week. I was watching on the fly earlier, and they were showing all his goals and assists of the past week, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, look, I guess he's got his swagger back. But all we have to do is talk about him not having it, and then all of a sudden he has
Yeah.
it. Um,
Well,
but
where you talked about
uh,
Murray sucking, and then he went on a run there, and
yeah,
then
yeah.
he
Then he had a
sucked
good
again.
game. You talked about Subban. He's had two straight games like Carey
Oh
Price.
yeah, yeah. That Malcolm Subban. What the heck? Crazy. As soon as I mention anybody out there want me to talk shit about them because it's going to turn your life around. Apparently.
You might become the CEO in about 3 days.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got Pajo also has been a struggle for the Islanders thus far
That's
this
true,
year,
actually.
and
Yeah.
he was able to contribute and step up in a loss. So for a positive for Isles fans, in a loss, Pajo actually looked good on the ice, looked consistent, looked like he was having his best game. It's just unfortunate that you
Yeah.
lost, but at least you lost in a shootout of which you were able to get the 1 point. That Crosby, of course, if I remember, Crosby scored in the shootout, right?
Was
I
it Crosby? I didn't. You know what? You talked about shootouts because I lost the under and I lost the ML. I didn't watch the shootout. Couldn't be bothered.
Somebody mentioned that. I'm pretty sure it was
Yeah.
Crosby on the backhand. It was either Crosby or Malkin because I distinctly remember a
All I
backhander by
knew
him.
is that I lost my ML because as soon as they went to the shootout, there was no way the Islanders were going to win that shootout. What's the odds of them winning that against Pittsburgh?
Yeah, not high
I'm
against Pittsburgh.
surprised.
That's
I'm
why
surprised they made it through the through the overtime.
yeah, that's why I remember. I think I'm 95% sure it was Crosby because I don't
Yeah.
remember
Uh,
71 being the one. I think it was
we'll
80.
get to that later,
80.
but I'm sort of leaning that too, Jacket. That's a
But
tough game though. Uh,
oh
yeah.
yeah,
Well, I
yeah.
mean, as far as Pajot is concerned, you got to really give the guy a break. He's playing with Komarov and Johnson and
Oh, I'm not blaming him. I'm
I
just
know, but
saying he
I'm
has
not
been.
saying you specifically, but people that are talking about Paggio and him struggling so far this year. He's been playing with that kid Wallstrom and Komarov
Yeah.
as your line mates. I mean, what are you going to pull out of your ass there?
Yeah, I mean, Wallstrom, I don't think is going to be bad in the long run. He's just a
Right.
20-year-old, like you said, past
He's just a
show
kid.
that's
Yeah.
up too quick, playing too much too quick. He really should still be fixing his little holes in his game in the AHL, but they don't have the depth in order to allow him to do such. So that's kind of where they're at right now.
Yeah. They expected him to be a little better than. But honestly, I think if he is sort of struggling in the AHL, they might as well let him feed off of Barry Trotz and see if they can get the
That's a
most out of him. I think that's probably the best because he's got the size. he doesn't really look out of place out there. Do you find though? Like this year, anyways, he just doesn't seem to have the ability to get into the scoring positions that you need to at this level. But he doesn't look out of place really.
No, he looks like he's playing smart and doing the right thing. He looks like kind of Farabee last year, where he wasn't compared to this year, where you saw with Joel Farabee, he was looking good on the ice, but not producing after that good run he had early on. But then this year he's pounced because he put on more weight, he put on more muscle, he worked on the kinks that he knew he had to work on in the offseason. And that's exactly what I think Wallstrom's probably going to do. This is going to be his year. He looks smart on the ice. It probably doesn't, whoops, hit the mic by accident, doesn't transfer to the stat sheet. But then next year, you're going to see, because of his intelligence and wits with the game, he's probably going to transfer to the stat sheet like Farabee did, and then have a but not maybe to the fullest effect, but you see the build up each year, and that's likely what you're going to see. Also, you're probably going to see moves made by the Islanders. They're going to have money in the offseason. I'm sure they're going to bring in a center and other people to probably help Wallstrom. Otherwise, they're stupid.
Do you know who he
So
reminds me of? Actually, I think that I mean he could go higher than this bit, but right now he kind of reminds me of Sutter in Vancouver. There, what's his first name? Brent.
Ryan Sutter.
Vancouver Sutter.
Oh, Vancouver Sutter.
Brent Sutter is that no? What?
Brett
Yeah,
Sutter.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's.
He kind of reminds me of him. He's got that.
Oh,
His,
check. There's too many
if
Sutters.
he's yeah, exactly. He's got that when he's got from the blue line in the offensive zone with the puck on his stick. He's got
Brandon.
Brandon Sutter. Yeah, he kind of reminds me of him. That would be fine if he turned into something like that. That'd be all right. He has that game from the blue line in. When he has it on his stick, he can find his way to the net, and that's what kind of Brandon Sutter is like too.
Yeah, who scored a hat trick the other
Yeah,
night?
yeah. But I mean, his overall game
Three of
is, and same as Brandon Sutter, is not the greatest. Possession numbers aren't wonderful. I don't think Wallstrom will ever be that guy, but um, if he can
he
turn out to
plays.
be a Brandon Sutter type, that'd be all right.
So you're basically you're saying he's a guy that plays really smart, but doesn't have the most overwhelming amount of
He
skill.
doesn't have like a whole bunch in the toolbox, but what he does have is very strong. He's very
Got you.
strong on his skates. He's very strong on his stick. And if he can add an element, like really add an element, he's got the type of game where he's got to be grinding in the corners quite a bit. And when he's in there to do that, and a few more elements to his game, he could be a a strong player like Brandon Sutter, like that type of guy. Uh,
Got you. That makes sense. Yeah, I wouldn't say.
Hey,
Yeah, I don't think he's
NHNR, we
star
got
either.
your banner up, everybody. This is NHNR. He did this. I'm pointing at it like you guys. The Welcome to the NHL Pearl Wisdom Show, he did that. So that was pretty cool. Um,
Yeah, those are awesome banners. I thank you for the one for the Phantoms, and I'll be reaching out for probably a banner for my regular show like Pearlo had, and then help you out with stuff. Either if you want Cash App or something, whatever, we'll figure it out. Hockey news, I'll message you about that. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just going to go over and take a look here. I saw it last night. There's any interesting things with ice time and stuff like that. Oh yeah, Pittsburgh wins last night against the Islanders, and Mike Matheson played 24 minutes.
SML today and a stronger performance. Did you want to comment on that or reserve your comments about Jacket saying he likes the Boston ML?
Yeah, I'm sort of in there, maybe even in reg. We'll be probably talking that game later, but since you're bringing it up, yeah, something like that. I posted something already on our Patreon for that game. Maybe the only game. If you guys, one thing you can do is if you can tell me if there's any updates with goaltending. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be Kemper and
I'll
Binnington,
give it
but
a
I'm
shot.
not really sure. I'm hoping St. Louis plays their backup, that kid there. Then I'll know
Uh,
what to play for sure. But
right now, it has the expected because I'm looking
yeah,
at the lineups game preview to be Bennington and
yeah,
Kemper. The game preview.
yeah.
with the scratches. Well, injured is Tarasenko, obviously. Bozak, Scandella, Thomas, and Blaze. And then you have Fisher and Kajula for I almost called him Kagula. Kajula for the Yokes.
Injured, yeah. Yeah, injuries there. Thompson's a big hit for St. Louis, but really when it comes to St. Louis, it's just are they going to be able to get back their game again? Like they just are not all playing the way we're used to St. Louis playing. Um,
Jackets at
the
Bennington.
big thing with this game though is again Evgeny Malkin when is scoring, uh, and when like the Islanders, it's going back to the same thing we're worried about with the Islanders is how many times last year did the Islanders lose a game with 30 seconds left? Like maybe I don't think ever. I don't this is just happening too much for the Islanders.
Yeah, it's not common to see, but they're kind of between a rock and a hard place right now. They have a young team. We talked about it with Steele yesterday. Their defense is not where you want it to be yet. Their goaltending, that's not Semyon Varlamov, is not where you want it to be yet. So obviously we know who I'm talking about. And then you need to have everything kind of come into place. We said it yesterday. They're in a year that's kind of a limbo year, and they'll probably be back to be in the Isles next year.
Yeah, I that's it certainly does appear that to be that way. I saw a little bit of it turning around, but yesterday, like they played, yesterday's game was last year's bad game for the Islanders. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah. They haven't even played a full good game this year, really, other than maybe one.
yeah.
But
So it looks
um,
like now I think I've seen the sample size enough that I'm leaning away from the Islanders a lot this year.
same, agreed.
All right, let's go into our next game unless you got anything else you want to talk about there. Uh,
Nah, I don't need to talk about the Penguins more. That's all right. We can move on.
yeah, true blue Philadelphia fan talking there. Uh, now, one thing I will say is, again, when you have Crosby and Crosby on there, it just seems like a team will find a way to do stuff like that. They always have. It pisses you off, but they did it again. So we'll get on somewhere where you can gloat a little bit, quite a bit actually. Panthers versus the Tampa Bay Lightning, and you had the Panthers.
Yeah, they just been hot all year. They were at home. They are allowing in some fans, so I think that would factor into the commotion when it comes to the two Florida teams, because both of them, if I'm not mistaken, are allowing fan capacity. So Florida's pretty much the Wild West for people that don't know right now. In the United States, you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want if you go down to Florida. It doesn't seem like a virus is going on at all. But that's beside the point. The Panthers looked very good. Having the fans in looks like it makes an impact. They look great at home. For Toronto's looked good since going to. He only has 2 goals, but he's kind of one of those players you mentioned earlier. Is a smart player on the ice that goes to the right spots. Just doesn't have the skill set to produce a lot of points, but he's going to be a guy you like to have on your team, Frankie Vetrano, and it seems like
Yeah.
he's becoming that
Mm-hmm.
now. With the Panthers in full effect, where he was solid with Boston, but not great, and then going to the Panthers, he's really been able to
He's
take
got a
off.
killer shot.
Yeah, he has a good. Yeah, he does have an underrated shot. It's just he doesn't have the skill set to set himself up. If you're able to set him up, he's going to be able to score. He's also not afraid to crash the net. Wenberg's been fantastic. Both have been really. Nudavara, Wenberg, that combination you got from the Jacket has worked out well. And
Well, Nudavara was
but
scratched a couple times so far.
he was scratched a couple times, but the benefit for him is mostly against the team that you're their biggest Achilles heel, which is the Columbus Blue Jackets. So it was brilliant for the Panthers to bring in 2 Jackets, even if Nudavara sucks. If he does great against the Blue Jackets, I don't care if he sucks in every other game, because one of the main reasons we brought in these two was also to help us play the team that the Panthers already have their number 9 out of 10. In the Columbus Blue Jackets, even better. The biggest Achilles heel to the Columbus Blue Jackets, even when the Panthers are a struggling team, is the Florida Panthers. Like they just can't play the Panthers no matter how good they are usually. So bringing in a guy like Nudavar that knows them, obviously Bob already knows the Blue Jackets. It seems like this team really has designed themselves to say we're a good team, but we have to always be having that like kind of having that mentality of we're the boss when it comes to playing the Blue Jackets. Like you don't have our number, you're never going to have our number. And it seems like Florida really focused in on that more this year, and then they really did play the Blue Jackets really well. And I know because my one friend's a big Blue Jackets fan, he was bitching and text about it the whole game. But they played really well, so it's just nice. It's just nice to see a Panthers team that struggles to get attendance. The league has to put money in from other teams to keep them even going. It's nice to see them have this great start. Hopefully, it can keep going, and they can build up more fanship down there and actually get the hockey world churning for the Florida Panthers and not just the Tampa Bay Lightning. Beating the Lightning definitely supplanting, not just beating, but kicking their behinds definitely should help you maybe with that fanfare of some people going, yeah, maybe the Panthers are pretty nice.
Yeah, and this is going back to a problem. But hi, Rickett, how you doing? Rickett John from Rickett's Picks is here, the finest in
So,
the land, capper, one of the finest in the land. Awesome, buddy. Yeah, we'll get into that Chicago game. That was pretty cray cray. I did have, well, I can gloat when we get to that game. But as far as Tampa Bay is concerned here, this kind of reverts back to something that has been a problem for them, especially in the regular season, especially early in the regular season. And it's something I was kind of in the back of my mind while making this pick, was that they can be outworked. And it appears with the Florida Panthers that there's not going to be too many teams outworking them this year.
no, it seems like they've really got it together down there. Everybody's doing their job. Everyone's pulling weight. I think you brought up a great thing in the offseason. I'll bring up again about them bringing in that goaltending room. That's obviously with Bob last night. It seems to be starting to work. These last couple starts have looked better. And then with Dreger, it's been working the entire time. He's looked like $1 million since he's got NHL action. So that seems like a very great thing that you mentioned that has worked out really well for them. A guy that's looked good on the ice but hasn't got to the stat sheet yet that the Panthers keep complimenting how he's playing is Duclair. So if he's starting to get to the
He
stat sheet a bit in the assist totals, but
he didn't play
it
yesterday though, did he? I've
he didn't. That was I don't know if he was injured or they healthy scratched him, but I do know Quinville has complimented him in some of the interviews I've
mm,
watched. I don't know if Zito's talked about him at all,
yeah.
but I know Quinville's complimented him and stuff. So it seems like he's in a good spot down there, maybe to get over his personality of being a little bit of a basket case. But that doesn't seem to be the case as much down there with how they compliment him. So I think that could be a good spot with them, a smaller market to kind of just teach him hockey. Worry about hockey, don't worry about anything else.
Yeah, well, I think,
Um,
it's possible that you mentioned that. Sometimes a guy like Duclair who's doing all the right things and it's not going in, it's good. You hear it mentioned a lot. It's good to hear it, see it from a higher level again, and just have your brain go like, where was I? Where have I been in this situation? You know what I mean? They probably did some video with him and said, watch this guy, and then think about it when you're on the ice, whatever that may be. My guess is Verhage. You know, like Verhage is a guy that's not going to normally score 7 goals this fast, but he's getting into the spots.
Yeah, he had a nice play yesterday that they were able to send it up when it looked like Tampa could have scored on the other end, and then they sent it up, and Bob made a nice save. I can't remember who it was on for Tampa. Then it went down the other end, and Vazzy had to make a nice save when he kicked out his arm against Verhege on the returning. So he had a good game last night as well. That's true. He's been a great pickup that the Lightning probably shouldn't have let go, but he just sailed a ship a little bit across Florida and now looks great and is honestly a much better spot for his career with the Florida Panthers
Uh,
than he would be with the Lightning down the
well, the
lineup.
Lightning really didn't want to let him go, as for selfish reasons, but they knew that he
Has much,
for
yeah,
his own self and family and everything that he had to go somewhere else because they just didn't have a spot to give him a chance. So, maybe if somebody would have took Johnson off waivers or something like that, they could have kept him, right? But didn't happen. and he ends up going to Florida of all places to bite him right in the ass.
Maybe he just likes the state. That would be. I mean, because obviously you didn't know they were going to start this good. I think that was probably a family with the COVID situation type decision. You're already in the state of Florida. It's fairly easy just to pack your bags and go up the highway. So he might even still live in the same place. Like he just goes down the highway every day. Who knows? So I mean, it wasn't a hard move for him at all.
No, keep on talking because I just remembered to share this again.
Oh, you forgot to do it until now.
Did you already share it? Everybody
No,
share.
I was gonna do that too, but
Everybody share the live. Everybody
there's
share
usually
it because we get in trouble. We Steel gives us big spankings on on Monday afternoons when we do our meetings if we don't share the live. So we need to we need to be sharing the live. Uh,
yeah, I just shared it.
okay, I'm sharing it on Twitter right now.
Yeah,
Trying to who should I send it to? ONB. Send me your Twitters out there. I'll add you
especially
guys.
if they
Send me your Twitters if you guys have one.
undecided on Blues Yotes first. Yeah, we could get to that when we talk about the Blues and Coyotes later. Jacket.
I am fading that game. I just don't know what the Blues. I mean, Arizona's outworking St. Louis right now for sure. But if St. Louis does even come close to equaling their work ethic, they can beat them. But then you got Kemper there that can stop pucks all day. So it's like, but Kemper's numbers aren't the greatest this year. So
They're not as good this year, but also, I mean, that's going to happen. Your save percentages and
yeah,
stuff doesn't
and
just
I
factor
do
in on
believe
kind of what
Ekman
people.
Larson's back in the lineup for this that game too. So that changes things a little bit. Um,
Let's see. Add John into the thing that I'm sharing. Um, But yeah, Ekman Larson being back obviously would definitely help. But it also depends how he plays because he has to play like the normal OEL and not like he's been the last 2 years of his career. So you have to see what he's more able to do if he's able to be the consistent Ekman Larson if he's fully healthy now, actually, or if he's just going to be the same old what he's become, which is not a bad defenseman. It's just he's not going to do anything for Arizona doing that because you thought he was going to be the all encompassing and they kind of banked on that. But the defense they structured, so they're probably going to move him for assets if he doesn't go back to being the all encompassing.
well, I mean they want to, but he's got that NT'd, and the only two places he would go was Boston and Vancouver. So Vancouver probably could use him now, though, if they could find the cap room to fit him in somehow.
They definitely could
They
use
could
him. Yeah.
definitely use him, and we'll get to that game later too. You're right though. Wenberg is a good Wenberg. If you're going to if you're going to make some like a list of good and bads of Tortorella, I think you'd have to put Wenberg in the bad because he Q certainly seems to be getting more out of him than
The most out of him.
Tortorella ever could have.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think Quinville obviously is another coach we saw with his Blackhawks history that pulls the most out of guys. Where for obviously I think it goes back to what Steele says. Some strategies don't work for some guys. The way that Torch was, maybe Wenberg just thought he was an obnoxious human being. And then with Quinville, the way that he coaches and is a lot more subtle, team oriented. Not he'll yell at you if he has to, but he's not like Tortorella that is just up in your face and obvious. He's a little bit more team like buddy family level centric might be a way to put it, like AV esque compared to Tortorella, who is a lot more obviously in your face esque coach. So I think maybe he resonates with that more, where Quinville balances both sides, where Tortorella is more of an old school coach.
That's what the perception is, but that's not what I hear from players that play with them. That's the thing. I mean, the
Well, to the media, he's an old school
yeah,
coach.
well, to the media, he hates the media. There's no doubt about that. He hates the media, and Joel Quinville tolerates the media a lot better than Tortorella does. But they're both great coaches, and sometimes it's not about which coach is better than the other. There's just for sometimes it's just personality clashes for whatever reason. Who knows, right? Like some of the greatest coaches out there didn't get the best out of some players. It's just the way it is. Look what Tippett's doing with Pulia Harvey. Like, does that make you
Yeah,
know?
that's true. Yeah, he's done a lot better. Obviously, going overseas to mature a bit more for Pugliarvi helped him as well.
Mm,
But he's looked good when healthy, and hopefully he's able to come back. We wish him well and come back as quickly as possible.
right. Was there more? Oh, and one you were mentioning about Vetrano. I was noticing, and we'll move on after this. I was noticing that really interesting line, and that's one of the things I like about Joel Quinville. He does some very interesting lines. Him and Tortorella both actually, but Vetrano in the middle of Lausternen and Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett and Vetrano are very similar players. They're shoot first guys. And then Lausternen, he's like a defensive center that's kind of a vanilla all around guy. So basically, it's just gives Lausternen the carte blanche to pass it to either side and just let him shoot.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's a pretty good strategy that they did. He's doing good, better offensively early on in his career. Lost her in than I think they thought he would because of the what you said. They put him with line mates that seem to work well chemistry wise, and that's a line that it seems like they probably shouldn't touch. You're right; they do match up their lines well. They run their teams similar. The reason I mentioned AV because AV doesn't consider number systems. Where I think if you ask these coaches in private, they might not say it as openly like AV did to the media, but if you ask them in private, I bet you both Tortorella and Quinville would say, I don't really believe in first and second
Oh yeah,
lines. I run the way that whoever's playing the
yeah,
best, I run that line out. They might not be as open to the media about it, but I bet you if you had a private conversation, they would say that.
absolutely. Both of those guys, they run their lines like they're just lines. They don't think of it as first, second, third, whatever lines. No doubt about that. Okay, let's get over because we got a lot of chat in the comments section here about this game. Pretty crazy game. Uh, well, I did really well on this game, except I had the under.
Yeah.
Chicago, Columbus. Like this is, are we living in voodoo land here when it comes to Columbus winning games 6-5, out shooting guys teams 43-26? What's going on?
Well, obviously, when you add in a player, even though he got benched, but when you add in someone like a line A, um, and guys that shoot more, you're telling what's his face, Max Domi to shoot more. Since Roslovic's come in, he's shot the puck a lot more and has been more aggressive. So your shot totals are going to go up. And that's really what it comes down to. You brought in players that are going to shoot the puck more. I mean, Roslovich was supposed to be more than what you saw in Vancouver. Like everybody thought when he was drafted by Vancouver, he was going to be more than what you saw in Vancouver.
Or
It's just it didn't work out.
Winnipeg,
He didn't,
Winnipeg, you mean?
or
Yeah,
Winnipeg, I meant. Excuse me. Yeah, not
yeah,
Vancouver. In Winnipeg, yeah.
yeah.
That he was supposed to be more than what it was supposed to be. And he just couldn't find it. He was down on the third, fourth line always,
Mm-hmm.
playing with guys he probably shouldn't have been playing with. He should have played with guys he's like playing with now in CBJ that bring you more skill and spunk, at least on the ice, if not always skill, that's able to have a tenacious guy on his line. But I think he's looked great. He's been one of the hottest players in hockey since going to the Blue Jackets from the Jets. So I think that probably is going to stay the case. He seems to be obviously in the perfect situation for himself. He's from Columbus, so what could be better? Um, and it seems like he's loving being back home, loving being around his family again. I think that might be all that kid needed, and now he's probably going to flourish and maybe become what the Jets thought he would become when they drafted him. And that trade might look like crap in a couple years because even if Dubois does really well, I'm pretty sure if Patrick Line and Jack Roslovic make All Star games, I don't know how great Jets fans are going to be looking at that trade.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, Roslovich has looked exceptional, and not only has he looked exceptional in the sense that he's putting up some points, he looks like he's becoming a leader on that team as well. He's yapping on the ice quite a bit. He's talking to his teammates. He's leading the line. He's leading a line. And I mentioned this yesterday. I never understood why Jack was not given more of a chance in Winnipeg. Lion seemed to say, I guess, I don't know, it was like talking to some interviewer in
Yeah.
Finland or something like that. I don't know if it's true, but he seemed to say that, basically Wheeler and Shifley and those guys, they they re- didn't want anybody to. They only wanted to play together, and they basically won over Paul Maurice and all this stuff like that. I don't know, but I don't know. But what I do know is that when I watched Jack Roslovich in Winnipeg, I was constantly asking, why is this guy not playing higher? He looks fine. He looks ready, more than ready. I never saw any part of his game that said this guy shouldn't be up in the top six.
No.
So
Yeah.
and this is okay. This is the same thing happened to Truba. Truba played 5-6 when he should have been playing. He was obviously a top four on their team. Lion was playing. We've talked about it. Roslovich. So I'm thinking their philosophy there is like if you're complaining about it, we're going to leave you there. They don't want anybody complaining. Just toe the line, and you'll get your spot when you get your spot. All that kind of stuff like that. I don't know, but I do know they're losing people like this left, right, and center because of whatever they're doing in
Yeah, that's
in
true.
Winnipeg.
And also, yeah, I answered him in the message, but yeah, Jacket, he wasn't benched yesterday. I was referring to his first benching. He played about 20 yesterday. Patrick Line, I think he played almost an even 20 minutes, actually, a little bit over. So he wasn't benched yesterday. I was just saying, even though he got benched prior, when you have him in your lineup, he's going to bring more shooting and effectiveness, getting the shot
Oh,
totals up. And when you tell Max Domi to shoot more, he obviously has a pretty damn good shot. He just doesn't use it enough. And then you have the other guys there, like Roslovic, who's good at everything. Bjorkstrand has one of the more underrated shots in hockey. So you got guys that can shoot the puck.
yeah. Line didn't get benched last night.
No, that's what I was answering. Yeah,
Yeah,
I was referring to his previous benching, saying even though he got benched, he's still going to be a great asset there. And I think now looking at I always liked him too, but looking at this from the forefront, you almost could say now it looks like because of how comfortable Roslovic looks, and it seemed like that was the only thing he needed, comfort to really
yeah.
flourish. That this trade is not going to work out as well for the Jets.
No. Yeah.
Even if Dubois does great,
Yeah.
if you have two guys that make consistent All Star games, like I said, which we won't have next year, obviously because of the Olympics, but when there is All Star games again, um, then that's going to look a little bad if you even if unless if Dubois becomes like the next best like Jonathan Tays guy or somebody like that, a Backstrom or somebody along that line.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention about that game as well is that Domi was playing the wing yesterday.
Yeah, they got him to go back to the wing.
What's
Yeah.
that all about? He left two organizations because he wouldn't play center, and now all of a sudden he's playing the wing. I wonder how long that'll last for. I don't know,
Well,
but
like we said, we did talk about that. Remember in a video that I brought it up, and as soon as I said he was going to play the wing, you were shaking your head. And then I did make the point that, well, if anyone's going to convince him to play the wing, it's going to be John
yeah,
Tortorella.
yeah.
So,
And I think
um,
I said if Tortorella does that, then he should definitely get Coach of the Year.
well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, I think he played fine at center. I think it's more Stenlin's been really impressing. So I think it's more you're not playing bad at center, Max. It's just Kevin Stenlin has impressed us big time. He's a big kid. We would like to put a
Yeah,
big kid in between you and Bjorky.
yeah,
Would you mind playing on the wing? I think usually the way you have to deal with these things are more by the way they're
yeah.
phrased.
I think he's probably
Like,
saying this is what I think Tortorella is saying is don't worry, we're going to put you back up the middle. But Sten cannot play on the wing. Like he's just not a winger at all. He's going to be in and out of the lineup for certain games. So if you can throw us a bone here, we're not calling you a winger. We're still calling you a center. He's going probably something like that, right?
yeah, exactly. I think it's the way it's phrased where elsewhere it was just you're playing the
Yeah,
wing.
yeah, yeah.
Where,
Especially in Montreal, they seem to have that attitude there in
yeah,
Montreal, where like, don't tell us what to do. You do what you're told, and that's it, right?
exactly. And also, hey, what's going on? Hockey news reports. Glad to see you're back in. And Ricketts says if I was playing this one, oh, he's responding to Jacket about what plays he would do. Gotcha.
Why is he? Jacket says, why is he even getting benched at all? Apparently, he said something to one of the assistant coaches during the game. Maybe
Mm.
something to the extent, something that he could get away with in Winnipeg, but they don't play that in Columbus. I don't know what it was, but he might have been a little too lib, saying, would you shut up or something like that, because the assistant coach said something to him. I don't know.
Yeah,
Apparently,
it was
but the
something.
cool thing about it was Lion afterwards was asked about it, and he said, "I think it's fine. Not that I'm bench, but I like working with the coach that's going to bench, because he'd obviously talked to the teammates, and Atkinson told him said as well in the media. He's like, Tortorella will do that if you're not working hard or if he doesn't think that you're fitting in that game or whatever. It's just the way it is." And he ended up going. Saying he thinks it's great that a coach does that. So he had the right attitude, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, that's for sure. He had a fantastic attitude about it after, and now he played 20 minutes again, looked pretty good on the ice in those 20 minutes. So I would say they're fine. I think it's just he was coming from a different organization, as you said, learning the way of that organization, and he said something that doesn't fly in that organization, and that just happens sometimes.
Yeah, that's all it was. It blew over really well. Like I was talking about it yesterday. I heard a lot of people talk crap about Lione in Winnipeg and stuff like that. And I like his attitude. I do admit that his attitude is not something that is
Everybody
is
likes.
everybody likes. That's right. But I do
Yeah.
personally like his attitude. It's confident. He's sure of who he is, and he's able to take things. Like he got a lot of crap in the media there, and he just straight up. I think Tortorella and him are going to work very well because he's not he's pretty straight up in the media. He says it the way he wants to say it, and people don't like that.
Yeah, which is exactly why I think when he got on a phone call and he was on the interview when they got line A, he's like, "Yeah, we seem like we're going to get along great." Like after he had one phone call with him, he told the media, "We seem something along Pat's paraphrasing, but basically, yeah, I think I'm going to get along great with this guy because they're both blunt as
Yep.
heck and tell you exactly what it
Yep.
is." So Pat's line, he's not going to have trouble backing Tortorella
No.
either if somebody in the locker room is being an idiot. He'll go right over and be like, "Dude, you're being an idiot," and have the coaches because he's really blunt himself. So yeah, I think they'll get along perfectly fine. I mean, Patrick Line might get turned into a captain by John Tortorella.
Yeah. No, I agree with you
Yeah,
100% if it's not Roslovic. I mean, just imagine
yeah.
they just traded.
If it's not Roslovic, yeah.
Does Kekalainen now just look more and more like he just constantly looks like a genius all the time, everything he does? Like, you take a guy that in Dubois, and I got nothing against Dubois. I don't know whatever went on with him, whatever was going on there. We were talking about it before that sometimes you just don't know why. Like, Tortorella was upset and Kekalainen were upset that he didn't give him a reason why. Sometimes you just don't know why, and I got the impression that maybe he just didn't feel right there, and he wanted to change. I mean, can't
Agreed.
blame a guy for that. I'm not going to crap
Yeah.
on him for that. But as far as the organ, they kind of went like that was what was frustrating for them, and that shows what Columbus is all about. It's very open. It's very straightforward. Nobody's afraid to say anything here. The only thing we don't like is if you don't say anything. And Dubois didn't say anything. Tortorella went out and tried to use every angle he could to get him to say anything, even as far as going into the public, which is not what Tortorella normally does. It's not like he has a history of this or anything. And it didn't work, and they ended up having to trade him off. So that's what it appeared like to me. I don't put anything against Dubois in that. It's his right to not tell anybody why. Could be personal, could be all kinds of stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely his right not to tell him why. As Hockey News asked, and I responded, Line Atkinson, and Roslovic were the ones who were together because obviously Line and Roslovic have chemistry coming from the Jets, and then they that makes sense putting them in between a quick skater, another quick skater that can shoot the puck, and Cam Atkinson. You have to have people that can keep up with Roslovic and Line. You don't want to slow poke on their line, so it makes sense putting Atkinson there, and that's why he got to stay up on the first line rather than moving down because he seems to fit in pretty well with those two.
Yeah, who is injured there? It's funny though. See, we were talking about after Chicago.
Knight is injured right
Who's
now.
that? Nyquist,
Who
yeah,
stopped?
yeah, but he's been injured all year. It's just the
I meant
way
the
they
Winston.
did the lines. They brought Stenlin in. Who did they put out? Who did they? Oh,
Oh, who
Liam.
did
Why?
scratch?
Why is Liam Foodie not playing? That's it.
Didn't they put Foodie back on the taxi? Yeah,
Yeah.
they put him back on the
Why?
tax.
That's weird.
They also put Ben from back on the tax. I mean, he's looked solid. He hasn't translated. I think it's probably to keep moving him back. I wouldn't be surprised if they give him. I mean, the kid's only
Yeah.
21. Maybe they're trying to put him on the taxi, thinking they're gonna give him AHL
Yeah,
time.
maybe
And
it's
I don't.
also because they're being smart because with this condensed season, these kids are going to really take a beating, right?
That too.
So,
A lot of teams have been alternating between the taxi squad. I mean, we've seen it with veterans too. Toronto did it with Spezza, and then Spezza comes back in, scores a hat trick, has looked great since they put him on the freaking taxi squad.
yeah.
So I think it's a rest thing, and now that you have the taxi squad, it might be a confidence boost thing. Like, hey, rest your head for a couple days, and come back firing on full cylinders. I think it's kind of a combination of those two things.
Hockey news, we haven't talked about the Montreal game yet. Okay, we should probably get into other games, otherwise, we'll be not finishing the games like normal. Like we normally do, because it's so much fun. Every game has got so much to talk about. We didn't even get into any Chicago Blackhawks here. That was like there was a whole bunch of scoring.
We talk a lot about the we talk a lot about the
Yeah,
Blackhawks and past episodes, just how much I like Lankinen
Pia
and
Suter got another one again, and
Mitchell got his career first, crashing the net in front of the net. Ian Mitchell.
yeah, yeah. Pia Suter got another one again. The guy who I watched who didn't look good last night,
Oh, he got his first
Zadorov had a
too.
rough night last night. But besides that, yeah, we did talk a lot about Chicago the day when we were talking about this game in particular. So I guess we can move on to the next game. Uh, oh, I guess Lankinen got lit up for the first time this year.
Yeah, first struggle of a game. That one save that ended up being the deciding goal. I know the one from the side angle. He's obviously going to want back that he left the rebound, but I also think the deciding goal by Stenlin there, he's going to want back too because he literally just shot that through his 5 hole.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, he definitely was a little bit off
You're gonna
yesterday. I
have those
agree.
nights. He's been playing a
Yeah,
lot of games for a kid too. They really do. I mean, they got to start working some other goaltenders in there too. But I mean, like you said, Subban was playing well 2 games in a row now, so maybe they will. Um, Thursday. Sorry. What do we got next? Next on the card. Well, do you want to do? Wait, did Montreal play last night? Yeah, it was Montreal Oilers. Yeah, you want to do that game for H&Rs before he leaves?
yeah, we can do that one.
Well, I got to give my friend Curtis Davis a hand here. He picked the Oilers last night, and I really got to really rethink these 4 games and 6s in the in because the Oilers play 4 games in 6 nights, and normally that trumps back to backs. But what Curtis Davis said is because they played Toronto, it's such an emotional game that they'd be tapped for this game, and the Oilers would end up winning it. And he was exactly right because they did look tapped.
Yeah, the Canadians did not obviously come out that good in this one. It was another game Allen was in. He didn't look too bad. The one save he
No,
probably could have
he's
made, but
okay.
yeah, he looked solid. You have a team in Edmonton that's still trying to figure it all out. I mean, Kihara was able to score a few guys. Darnell Nurse has been good all season. He already got his six. He's been the
What's
most
Kyra all of a sudden becoming a
consistent
player?
guy back there. Yeah, Kyra actually has looked pretty solid. Yeah, I don't know where that finally.
Yeah,
He's actually been able to put it together as a former third years ago, 8 years, 9 years ago, something like that. So he's been around for a while and is finally putting it together. Maybe he's the late blooming guy there. And then Tyson Barrie, who, again, another guy that I gave a little bit of a shot to yesterday just because not to him, but just because they brought in a non defensive defenseman to replace Cliff Bomb. Had a wired slap shot. So there you go, another guy that had the mojo, the Pearlo Wisdom Show mojo, come into his veins last
yeah,
night.
yeah.
So He had a good night and was able to wire one there. This was just a good full performance. They got outshot by I think 7, but other than that, it was a good full performance. And the Canadian shots, some of them were just those poop shots that were never going to go in, that were 800 feet away that they would just shoot. So like the Oilers definitely played their best defensive game, I think, against a very good opponent to actually show up on defense because you're playing the team that, as we said with Steele yesterday, we think is going to be second to Toronto potentially in the North. So it's good to show up fully and show out against them. And it's also good to show up and show out when all McDavid and Dre are doing as assistant.
Yeah,
That's another thing. It's great to see the Oilers show up and show out when all Dre and McDavid are doing is assisting others and just hanging back and saying, "You all got this tonight. We do enough for this team otherwise."
yeah. It was a Montreal didn't play their best game. Edmonton played well. They deserved to win. There was no doubt about that. Um, Darnell Nurse can shoot the puck in the opposite direction and score right now. It seems he's having one of those times when everything just goes in no matter what you do, which would be great. His shooting percentage has got to be insane. I have to imagine. Um, but
I would think so.
yeah. Overall, it was just a. It was an. I was really surprised that Montreal didn't have more in the tank than they did. Yeah, it was a back to back, but they hadn't played before the back to back for quite a while. But Curtis was right. He had this one pegged.
Hockey News has it exactly right too. That's pretty much what I meant. They had a bunch of weird crap shots. Like the chances were on weird angles, as you said, which is not obviously how you basically score many goals unless if you're playing a goaltender that's inexperienced and you just want to get shots on
Hmm.
them. So yeah, I completely agree with that. That's a great way to put it, Hockey News.
Yeah, I wouldn't say the Oilers particularly completely outplayed Montreal, but yeah, some fluky goals. I think if you played right now where these teams are at, if you played a series, Montreal would still win it pretty handily.
Yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, it's funny that there's not really much more to talk about with that game. Oh, Mike Smith getting a shutout. I mean, who saw that coming? He comes back, he gets a shutout, and then what was it, 2 nights ago? He played well again. So since he's come back from his injury, he's been playing like he played really well last night. He played like Mike Smith 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So maybe he just
Yeah,
needed that break, I guess.
yeah, well, he's another guy that got the mojo because we talked about how
It,
they should have got another goaltender behind that was not injury prone and old.
yeah.
Well, it turns out that Mike Smith got a shutout, so you know.
See, when I say that these guys are watching, I'm not kidding. They're watching. They're hearing, and that's it. They're like, oh, we Pearlo says that, did they? All right, we're going to change that right up now. Smith has been solid, yeah, which he wasn't for the longest time. Be solid. That would not be the word that I would use to describe Smith the
No,
last
it
two
wasn't
years at
for a
all.
couple. Yeah, it wasn't for a couple of years. He went back to being his young, overly aggressive self in old age. Looked like he was kind of in a midlife crisis, trying to figure out how he could still stay consistent in the NHL, where now it seems like from maybe a blessing in disguise from being banged up a bit as he was able to get back perfectly on the mental side, which is even more important than how good you're able to play. And he seems like he's completely zoned in again.
Oh, Puya Harvey was out last night too, and
Yeah,
James Neal took
co-
his spot up there, which is not ideal. But
yeah, he's the first Canadian player on the COVID protocol.
oh, is he on the COVID protocol? Oh, I didn't know that. I thought he was injured. Or you could be. I didn't hear either way. I just assumed he was injured for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, I saw somebody tweet out, one of the insiders tweeted out. I can't remember who it was yesterday, but it said how Puljujärvi was the is the first Canadian player placed on the COVID-19 protocol list.
Hmm, interesting. Yeah, Russell Puliarvi. Russell, I don't think you'll see Russell get back in the lineup now after Bouchard. Bouchard has been playing very well there. Played him 18 minutes last night. I don't see how he looks out of place at all, and he looks better than. Actually, so does Lagesson. Lagesson looks better than Russell. So I think it's pretty possible that he'll be riding the taxi for quite a while.
Yeah, Russell's a guy you have. He's been around. He's a veteran guy that helps young guys. That's more why you have him at this point to help nurture than anything else. So he's not a bad guy to have on your team for the locker room, but he's not going to do as much on the ice.
Yeah, what's his name? NHLNR there says one of the best puck moving goaltenders ever. Yeah, absolutely, no doubt about it. Smith
Yeah,
still has that today. He's a fantastic puck moving.
that's just sometimes what also gets him caught.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's like the great offensive defenseman that everybody poops on because they cough up the puck every sometimes. That's just gonna happen when you play that type of style. But if you're that, you're that. So yeah, but when he does do it, sometimes it's at the worst times, right?
Yeah, he definitely does it at really inopportune times at times, that's for sure. Trying to figure out where my computer charger is here because I'm at like 18% on my computer, but we'll figure
How
that
many
out.
years does Russell have left? You could make a case that he doesn't have any years left. Uh, yeah, I was really surprised that they signed him again. But most of that is just Holland's not going to make the same mistake that the organizations before them have made. He's always going to make sure he's got veterans in that room talking to these kids and helping them and encouraging them. And Russell's all that. He's a team guy. No greater team guy. But, I mean, he's taken a lot of abuse.
Yeah, that's for sure. He definitely has taken a lot of abuse. I'm looking for my charger, so that's why I put the
Yeah.
Skype thing on, just so everyone doesn't see me moving around while looking for my charger in my room. But yeah, he definitely is a guy that brings ample experience and expertise, but that's really all he brings at this point. I definitely second you with that.
Yeah, that's all he does. But, I mean, he's also got that lore of being one of the greatest shot blockers of all time. Now, a lot of that had to do with the way his game kept him in the wrong side of the ice a little too much. But at least when he's on the wrong side of the ice, he's blocking shots like nobody's business. And uh,
Well, yeah, at least if you screw up, you have a way to catch up.
do I know if Mathot wants to play again? I don't know.
Mark.
Mathot, you want to write into the show here and let us know if you're going to play again? Uh, from what I understand, he last played for Dallas, right?
That's what I remember. Yeah, Mark Mathot,
Hey,
right?
Avatar,
Wasn't
how
that?
you doing? If he hasn't played by now, I doubt he's going to play again. I
Yeah,
don't
we're
ever
talking
remember
about.
him officially retiring, though.
No, I don't either. But yeah, they meant Mark Mathot, that guy,
I think that's what his first name
or
was.
what? Yeah, I think that's what his first name was. Yeah, I remember him playing for Dallas. I don't remember
He played.
elsewhere at the end of
He
his
played
career.
for Montreal.
If it was the end of his career.
Who did he play?
Well, no, I meant it. I don't think he played for anybody else at the tail end,
No,
is what I was
afterwards. I was
saying.
just trying to remember who he did play for altogether. There, I can't remember exactly, but I know he was in Dallas at the end of his career. I think he played for Columbus, Montreal,
Mark.
and no, Ottawa. That's what it was. Right.
Yeah, there it is. I
That's what
got
it
it.
was.
Yeah, I talked to
Ottawa,
Google.
Ottawa, Ottawa. Not Montreal, Ottawa. Ottawa. Didn't he play for Columbus too? Columbus or Colorado or something like that.
He's another guy that brings obviously great to have in your locker room, brings you the
Oh, it was
experience, the
just the
pedigree.
Sens and the Stars. That's it. Oh, okay. Hmm.
Huh.
Oh, I thought.
He was with the Sens for a
Yeah.
while, so I guess that makes sense because he was that veteran that helped the young guys when
Oh,
Carlson, like
yeah.
others, came up the
He was a
system.
great defensive defenseman for Carlson for years. He was very he was excellent, but he took a lot.
That's what Carlson's missing, and then Mario Ferraro is probably about to freaking jump off of a bridge in San Jose pretty soon if they don't
Mathot
find a play.
slashed Crosby's hands before they made that slashing rule the way it is. Yeah, Crosby used to get a lot of that, and everybody called him Whiner Crosby for doing it. But no,
Well, no kidding. You're one of the most skilled players in the league. If you can get away with any advantage to make you a little bit less skilled, I'm going to
Yeah,
do it.
you. I can't see you anymore. Have you tried to go back, or are you still working on stuff?
I just found it now. I'm about to put the
Okay.
camera back on. Yeah, I just found my truck. It was in a box that I never put it in. Don't ask me why
Ah, I
the
was
hell I put
right.
it
He
there.
did play in CBJ. Look at that with Rust.
Oh, he did
Yeah, he
play
did play.
CBJ.
I
Oh,
thought I remembered him playing for CBJ with
there we go. Got it back up now.
Rostislav Klesla. Remember him? Their first
Kind of.
That was their first round pick. Rostislav Klesla. It wasn't a very good pick too, from what I remember.
No, yeah, I was. That's why I
But
said
he played in
kind
the
of.
top
Like,
four. He played in the top two for a lot of the times, although he probably shouldn't have been. But he was a good defenseman. There was better players that he was picked because I think he was picked like second or third or something like that. I'd have to look it up, but it was a high draft
yeah,
pick because it was Columbus, and Columbus pretty much always had high draft picks.
yeah,
I
back
want to
then,
say it
yeah,
was
for
like the
sure.
second overall or third overall, and I want to say it was right when Hedman was drafted. That's what I think it was, the Hedman draft.
Yeah, I could look at it.
Oh, Hockey News is asking what our favorite goalie prospect is right now. You know what mine is?
Who was yours?
Askarov. But I might
Oh,
go
okay.
with the American too.
He was the fourth overall pick by the Blue Jackets in the 2000 draft for Rostislav
Right. Who
Klesla.
else was drafted there? Who was the first overall pick?
That I would have. Hold on. 2000 NHL draft.
Uh,
That was when I was like 4 years old, so
yeah,
I would have
yeah.
to. Don't remember that off of the top of my.
Knight would be the other one, I think.
Rick DiPietro.
Oh, he was way back then. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Rick DiPietro was numero uno in that draft. Also, not the best draft pick over
No,
time.
I
Had a
guess
couple. Had
not.
a couple.
That was the one where he
Yeah,
traded. They traded. Milbury traded Luongo to Florida for some. I can't remember his name, for a 30-goal scorer, and Kavasha, so they could pick DiPietro and then sign him to one of the worst contracts ever. Ever.
yeah. And then Heatley went to the Thrashers. Gabrick went to the Wild. So they could have picked Heatley or Gabrick. That's the two they could have picked instead of Klesler. So they could have had an elite forward instead of a solid
Yeah.
defenseman.
Heatley,
And
or
then
who was the other one?
afterward, Heatley or Gabrick
Oh,
were the other
Gabrick.
two
Yeah, yeah.
before him, and then afterwards, Scott Hartnell went to Nashville,
Six. Yeah,
sixth in that
yeah.
draft. Yeah. In terms of guys that would be ridiculous, those are kind of the guys that Williams is a good player that went
Yeah.
28th, but you weren't going to pick him
Yeah, it
that
wasn't
high
a
back
super
then.
strong draft, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Yeah, it was more Heatley, Gabrick are the guys they could have had. I mean, Yakupov was picked by. There was another goalie, Brent Cron. There were two top 10 goalies. He was picked by Calgary in that draft.
Oh, yeah, he never went
Brent.
anywhere. Played in the AHL, had a
Yeah,
cup of coffee, and then went to Europe. Yeah, didn't do very well. That's right. I forgot about him, actually. Um, where, where's my NHL thing? Ah, here we are. Okay, so I don't know how we got on that, but that was fun.
hmm.
Let's. But I think Sterling Knight right now,
Spencer Knight.
Spencer Knight is probably my favorite. Just because he had such a great World Juniors there. I do like Askarov, but or Spencer Knight looks like he's more ready for sure.
Spence definitely looks like he's closer to being ready. In terms of prospects, mine's probably honestly Wallstead at this point, looking at his highlights and stuff coming in if
Oh,
there is a draft this
oh,
year.
if you're talking about undrafted, yeah, yeah,
If we're talking about undrafted, it's Wallstead. If we're talking about drafted, just because this is an under the box guy, I pay attention to goalies as much as I can. The kid that I believe Jones started last night and got benched. Yeah, Jones started last night. That Jones got benched for. Melnichuk actually looked good in the minors coming over. Looks like a pretty solid, at least 1B. if not more. So it seems like they got at least a Mrazek as a goaltender out of Alexei Melnichuk in San Jose, if not a mini Martin Jones. I mean, nobody thought Martin Jones was going to be Christ for 5 years, and he was amazing, and then he just fell off a little bit. So the Stars seem to be pretty solid, or excuse me, the Sharks seem to be pretty solid with their goaltending. I like him. I think he's a guy that's at least going to be a Mrazek, and his ceiling is probably more of what Jones was able to do for that stretch.
Hmm.
Not now, what Jones was able to do in his prime.
Yeah. All right, we'll go to the next game. Probably won't take very long on this one. We had the conversation about it was the game that would against the two worst teams in the league, the Red Wings versus the Predators. I sweated the crap out of this game because I had the Red Wings PL.
What was the PL for this game?
What was the juice on it?
What was the juice on it?
It was
Yeah.
almost 170, about 170, 171. You got more on the PL for the Red Wings than you did on the ML for the Preds.
Oh, okay.
So that's why I was like, I'll take the Red Wings on the PL there because they're probably going to keep it within one, and they did, but they made it freaking huge sweat doing it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean that's going to be a Red Wings team that's competitive, but still not obviously close to being the winners. And then you're playing Nashville, who we didn't think. I mean, Nashville actually came out pretty solid in yesterday's game, which you should expect, obviously, against Detroit. Like I said, Duchesne, who we kind of came out a little bit, has been doing good of late. 3 goals, 4 assists now in the season, 7 points in 14 games after having pretty much nothing to start the season. So he's looking good of late. If he keeps going, Johansson still needs to obviously. Um, I guess the
Well,
nicest way to
Johansson's
put.
hurt now.
Well, yeah, he's hurt, but one, he has to stay healthy, but two, he has to do something in the organization. Like he hasn't really done anything since going to Nashville, so you want to get more out of him. Forsberg's amazing. Sissons has looked good. Kunin looks like a smart player on the ice with 2 and 1, but he just hasn't produced the Wild wanted more out of him. Now Nashville wants more out of him. It's going to be interesting to see if he's able to get to the level you want him to get to. He kind of just look. He might just end up being one of those smart cats we referred to earlier. That's like Vetrano, a smart player that has the skill, but you needed the right people on his line in order to help him facilitate that skill. He's not going to do it for himself.
You'd probably do that for a Klondike bar. Yeah, exactly. I no, I agree with what you're saying. Yeah, yeah. Um, I don't know. I watched a lot of that game because I had a, I had a, I had put it in for my clients, and that was really why. I mean, a lot of people here probably we might lose some current viewers talking too much about this game because there's not really much to talk about. The what was
What
it?
what um what Hockey News did say though, Hunter Jones is a pretty obviously out of Minnesota. I know we talked about him in the past a little bit because that's why I was a little surprised they locked up Talbot to a 3-year deal when we talked about Jones in the past, just because of his history of success. He only had 1 game with Iowa. It didn't go that well this far, but that's 1 game. He dominated the OHL with the Peats. So it seems like he's going to be really good too. That's a very good point. A very good point made by NHL Hockey News reports there. He's definitely underrated. Ottinger also has looked great. It's just Ottinger's becoming so good so quick. Hudobin ended up sitting. That pretty soon I don't know if he's even going to be. He might be that Shesterkin riser, that Hart riser, that guy that you go, hey, is he even a prospect anymore after like 20 games?
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I didn't mention him. I love Ottinger and everything about him. I was the one talking about him last year when I first started doing shows with you. I talked about how the Stars have probably their future goaltender. So yeah, he's going to be great. It's just he's so great already. I might not. It's pretty soon you're not even going to consider him a prospect anymore. You're just going to consider him the Shesterkin type, the Hart type, the all those other great young goaltenders in the league. When Demko actually gets playing time, he's amongst that when he's able to get hot and get going. But they just have Holtby there that holds him back.
Yeah. Ottinger is going to take over that role there. Both Hudobin and Bishop probably should be resigned to the fact that he'll be their number one fairly quickly. Uh,
Yeah,
he's improving leaps and bounds all the time. I'll mention a few things. Jared Tenorti, which I've talked about a lot. I like him a lot. He played
yeah.
19 minutes last night, which is great. Pekka Rinne actually had a above 900 save percentage, but again, it's against Detroit.
He's actually been solid of late though, because his numbers have gone up. He started a little. His record looks bad, but the Nashville looks terrible. But a 2.56 and a 9.11 for a 38-year-old is definitely not bad
Yeah,
numbers. I mean, that's so if you're able to consistently do that, I think they're gonna end up pushing him too much because of the ineffectiveness of Soros this far. But it seems like he's doing a little bit better of late. So if you're able to push him out there a little bit more, then fine. But you still can't overplay Pekka. You can't start doing what the Sens were doing with Craig Anderson and thinking he's still going to be great at 38 years old. So
yeah,
playing him in the right situation, he definitely seems like he's still a good one.
yeah. Matt Duchene finally scored a goal last night, but I mean, overall, uh, it's Nashville won, but they need to win better than that yet. Although they did have more scoring chances, Grice his it doesn't really show up here on the shots. A lot of those shots were five dingers. Like he really did say he played fantastic last night. He's definitely setting himself up to be able to find a team this year, maybe even a team that might be injured that could give him a. And like you said, I would love the Edmonton Oilers to give him a shot. But that seems like a really good team. But it looks like he's going to probably find a team at the trade deadline and go for another cup. Um, go to another game here now.
Would the next one be Stars and Canes or the Senators and Jets blowout?
Well, we had a lot of talk about. We'll do the Senators and Jets. There's not much to talk about. Now, let's talk about something a little more interesting first before we talk about that. We'll talk about the Hurricanes and Stars, sure. Um, we talked about this. I think you took the Canes yesterday, right?
Yeah, I picked the Hurricanes. Yeah, I don't remember. I definitely didn't pick Dallas. Yeah, because I talked about Brindamore and different things.
I took Dallas because I was told that Trocheck was out, and then I'm watching the game and Trocheck's in. So if I would have known Trocheck was in, I would have took Caroline, but I didn't put it in for a pick or anything like that. But I was just leaning that way. But this Carolina team, man, it's looking pretty fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I said it earlier when we talked about Jarvis, and I brought up other people in Keene and Suzuki down there amongst most of the other roster. They're pretty much one of the colder favorites down there. So they have a good system. They obviously have a good NHL team. Um, so I think they're definitely doing putting all the right pieces together. Trocheck's been great since coming over from the Panthers. That's been a great acquisition since day one. So I think they're putting all the right pieces together. Hayden Fleury, as you said, they took time with, but he's going to continue to develop and get better. And they already have enough defense. Or as it is, they're just adding more at that point. And then when Keene comes up, you're adding even more. You already have Bean up. So I think this team's really looking good. The only thing that's keeping them from being that potential small market dynasty is getting that very consistent forward goaltender. Nedeljkovic, they were hoping could develop into that. He's going a little bit slower, so I would say he might not be that. He might be more of a backup, or he's not going to hit that until he's at least 27 or 28. So you're probably going to have to find a veteran that's able to do that in the meantime. That's all I had to say.
Yeah, we cut out there for a bit,
Uh,
but Yeah, we talk NHNR, and we seem to talk about goaltenders a lot on there, but that's all right. Bishop on the block. I mean, he's got to show that he's not injured first before he'll ever be on the block. But
That
if he can come back and play and he looks good, then he can not be injured. Which that's going to probably take all this year for any team to even think about it. He's missed so much time. He's really going to have to play a lot
yeah,
for
he
any
won't be
team
traded. He won't be traded until next year. No,
if he
I
gets
don't think he's
traded
going
at
to be
all.
traded
Yeah,
in the off season. Yeah, it would be during next season probably when people have more of a
yeah.
stamp on what he's doing. The guy you're more likely going to move is Hudobin, who might not, probably doesn't want to move. He talked about how much he likes the area, but if you're able to put him in a situation he's going to like as well, you have a
Hmm.
better try moving him because people know he's one of the best 1Bs or backups in the league. So
Yeah, I think for Carolina, they really got to. We've said it over and over again. They got to be looking there
they
in
could take
the
him. Wouldn't be a bad pickup.
Arizona Anaheim area. If they can pull that out of their butt, they could be a cup contenders pretty quick. Kemper or Gibson. They don't even need somebody that good. That team
No, they
really,
could take
obviously.
Hudobin too.
They
If they
could
took
take Kudobin, but I mean, I'd rather just go over the top and grab one of those guys. Then you're set for sure. You're set for sure.
Oh yeah, I just think if you take Hudobin, if you're three deep with the Reimers, Mrazeks of the world, and then you have a Hudobin, you'll be fine in that case because I don't think unless if you have a flyer situation where all six goaltenders get injured,
Well,
like
yeah,
you're
but
gonna
you're trading one of Mrazek and Reimer to get those guys because the other team's
probably
probably
Reimer.
going to need
Thing.
another. Yeah, Reimer, who's only got 1 year left. If Dallas is out of it, maybe they trade Hudobin in that scenario. I get a feeling though that there was sort of a verbal understanding that he won't get traded. I imagine. I don't know, but
Probably.
after he pissed off the coach, I don't know what he did there, and I guess probably not my business, but uh, nobody's business because they're not talking about it. But if anybody doesn't know, Hudobin got basically sat in the bleachers for 2 games for doing something that pissed off Rick Bonus a
Bonus,
lot, a
yeah,
lot, a lot, a lot, a lot. So whatever he did there, maybe whatever verbal agreement they might have might be like,
yeah.
yeah, maybe not so much.
Could be as simple. Hudobin's a pretty upbeat, out and about it guy. It could just be something maybe Bonus doesn't like you having as much fun off the ice as Hudobin's having. It could be something as simple as that.
Oh, he overslept. Oh, so yeah, he probably was partying and didn't come in.
Okay, there you
Everybody
go.
knew he was partying and then he didn't come in or something like that. Now that would definitely piss off a coach for sure, especially when you're a
Now,
veteran. Especially when you're a veteran and your second goaltender at the moment is Ottinger. You know, that is not what you want to be sending a message to those young guys. So for sure, yeah. And then he comes in, he doesn't have a great game against Chicago either.
no, he didn't. He did not have a great game. That was obviously a very back and forth game, but yeah, or against
Or
Carolina.
against Carolina, I should say.
But
I should say. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, he was very iffy in that game. I don't think he looked as confident. But I think he'll come back. Udobin's obviously one of the best dudes. It seems. I mean, I think he'll bounce back from pissing someone
Yeah,
off. He
I
seems
agree.
like a great.
I agree.
If you watch interviews and stuff,
Yeah.
I don't think there's going to be much of an issue with that. As for the Canes going for Grice, that could be another good potential pickup. I thought they should have went for him in the off season, which they didn't. But that could be another good
That's
one too.
that's true too. Yeah, I got Niederreiter scores again. The guy just keeps on
Hmm.
scoring, and like all you talked about the last 2 years is the inconsistency of Niederreiter, and now he's. I mean, it still could happen, but he's on quite the run right now for sure.
Yeah, he already has 6 goals. He's definitely on a pace to beat any of his last couple seasons. That's for sure. And in a 56 game season to boot. So yeah, that's definitely a great stat line for him so
And
far.
Hamilton with 8 assists already. Points are not a problem for this team.
No,
And Sabat,
they have enough talent.
Stahl even Jordan Stahl's taken that second line role. Now I've mentioned this before because he's been slammed for not putting up a lot of points by some people. And I'm like, Yeah, Stahl's the kind of guy that's going to play the role he's given, and he was playing against the top team's top lines. And if you can do that on a consistent basis and get 40 points, that's a pretty damn good production. And now with Trocheck was hurt, he kind of moves up the lineup a little bit, or Nietzsche and Nietzsche's as well. I think possibly Nietzsche's being there is putting a fire under his butt too, right?
Yeah, that would make sense. I mean, the more and more you get pushed, the better you're going to do. You're going to be more motivated and more behind it. So yeah, I would definitely second that for sure.
Should Habs price start Price or Allen against the Leafs on Saturday? I mean, at this point, I think you got to go with Allen almost, right? Price is just not. But I know they're going to go with Price. They're going to go back to Price.
I would think they'll probably go back to Price just because you want to get him going. He's obviously your multi-million-dollar goaltender, and Jake Allen's supposed to be the guy that's been the very good 1B you brought in to solidify it. So I think they're going to try to figure out Price. If they go with Allen, it would probably actually be the right, more wise decision. But I think you're going to try to figure out what's going on with Price, get him back to going. But it would probably make more sense to go with Allen logistically. It's just normally teams are not going to do that when you have a $10 million goaltender, and that's kind of the way it is.
Yeah, that's just I agree. It is totally the way it is. Um, this Dallas team, I just can't get a read on. It's why I faded the game. I don't. One minute they're scoring up a storm, the next minute they can't score with a darn. One minute their defense is good. They're all over the charts right now. They just can't seem to find themselves at all. Whereas Carolina seems to be able to play it any way you want. I'm really impressed with them. I'm going to be leaning Carolina a lot more now as we go forward. Here, some interesting stuff here as far as ice time is concerned. Pesci and Shea got more ice time than Slavin last night.
Yeah, they've been playing well. Pesci's obviously the defensive wizard, and then Brady Shea works well with him. I think putting those two together helps Brady Shea out. Obviously, a lot more than helps Brett Pesci. Pesci can play with whoever the hell you put him with. Where having Shea, who obviously likes to do different things in the offensive zone while having that security blanket, that line is quickly becoming one of the more fun defensive lines to watch. So I think Brindy's also one of those guys that doesn't go with traditionalism.
No,
He'll go with
you're right.
whoever's looking good in that
Yeah,
game,
we talked about that
and
yesterday.
that's what,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what was looking fire in that game. So why wouldn't you keep putting Pesce? There's nothing against Slavin. It's just look, these guys are looking like literal like monsters out there tonight.
Yeah.
So we're not going to go away from them. You got to keep putting them out there.
Tarasenko's skating again after
Yes,
two
yeah,
shoulder surgeries. Uh,
that's great to see. I hope for the best for
yeah.
him. I don't know if he'll be in St. Louis anymore but with the lineup they have, he might be. There have been trade rumors when he comes back, but we'll have to see. Either way, if he can stay healthy, he should have success somewhere.
Shea seems to be looking really good right now, and I mean again because NHL and NHNR asked how's Shea this year, and again, the more I look at it, the more my early choice for the Adams is Brindamore this year. When you're getting Niederreiter to have consistency, Shea had his problems with the Rangers last year. Now, I think a lot of the trade was to do with the fact that he was probably going to be the odd man out in expansion, and they wanted to make sure they got something for him, and they got a lot for him. They got a first round pick. But he did struggle with inconsistency last year. He was falling off a little bit,
Yeah,
and he comes into and now he's playing 23 minutes a night, or
yeah,
more than Slavin in one game.
yeah. And Brindy's got him to buy in too, because what we saw in New York, it didn't seem like he bought into fully being like this year. He's not even producing that much on the score sheet. He actually is looking good with Pesce in their own zone, and obviously you wouldn't always say about Brady Shea, "Wow, he's looking really good in his own zone."
Yeah,
So it seems like Rod Brindamore has pulled the best out of his both ends of them, where this year they've been getting, like you said, from Dougie Hamilton, Slavin himself. They've been getting more offense from them than they've been getting from the guy they brought in that they thought was going to be more for offense. But that's because what you want to have happen is working. You wanted him to get better on defense. It looks like he really worked on that in the offseason. This is his best defensive start by far none. And it looks like Brendan Moore's going to help him in tenfold with both sides of his game.
Yeah, no, I just been very impressed. I mean, he brought up Julian. I love Julian. I've talked about it a lot. It's just hard to win an Adams when you have Carey Price as a goaltender, although he hasn't been having like a stellar season. Plus,
Yeah, I guess if he keeps stinking and Jake Allen does really well, then he might win it.
yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to Julian ever getting Coach of the Year because I think every year he deserves Coach of the Year. I think he's fantastic. I love him. So, uh, but maybe another person will pop up in my head. I've just been so impressed with Brindamore and what he's done with Carolina over
You mentioned Colleton too.
Colleton, and yeah, Chicago would be another one. Yeah, especially if they make the playoffs, forget about it. He gets it, no doubt about it.
Yeah,
I don't think anybody can even come close to that. He will get at least one in his career. There's no doubt about it. As far as I'm concerned, unless Chicago just gets so good, they get a great goaltender, and he's one of those guys that never gets one just because his team is so good, which
yeah.
happens. Um, More than likely, though, the Writers Guild, they usually end up getting guys like that, like when Cassidy got his sort of thing. He probably didn't deserve it that year, but his body of work should allow him to get one because he's a fantastic
It
coach.
kind of happened to Sullivan in Boston too. There was other coaches that people said, "Well, you have such a stacked roster." People thought he wouldn't get it because of the stacked roster, and then he still
You
got it.
mean Cassidy?
Where they thought that
Cassidy in
was,
Boston
or
or
Cass,
Cass?
excuse me, yeah,
That's who
not
I was
yeah,
talking about.
Cass,
Cassidy. Yeah,
yeah.
that
And then
that
if
Tortorella should have had it that year, but
Torch should have had it. And then you have past guys. Obviously, I can't remember who the Red Wings coach was during the whole run with the Red Wings, but he didn't always get it, obviously, because the Red Wings were
Babcock.
stacked with guys.
Babcock.
Babcock, yeah,
Yeah.
Mike Babcock didn't always win the obviously because the Red Wings were absolutely stacked.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. It's like Cooper in Tampa Bay probably will never get one. I mean, he may have if they fall or whatever, but it's possible he doesn't get one. Um, so what do we got? We got which ones haven't we did? Oh, we did. Okay, we'll go over the Jets and the Senators. Why not? Uh, we Dubois did play in that game, so we'll talk about that. I didn't notice him.
no, it's not like he was overly. No, I mean the Jets did great. Stats is doing great. Appleton's having a good season. Forbrook continues to do well. Had the assists on Stats and he's goals. Stats and he looks like a new man in Winnipeg. Um, so yeah, he's doing good at the latter years of his career. And then we talked about how underrated Ellers is. He continues to do really well. And then Matthew Perot was finally able to chip in with a goal there and having a solid season himself with 6 points. So all's coming together for them. The only positive I have for the Ottawa Senators is Josh Norris continued to look solid. Other than that, nothing. Don't have anything to say to you about that game other than the fact that Josh Norris contributed and has continued to look solid. Not best on his defensive end yet, but offensively fine. Other than that, I have nothing positive to say to Senators fans. But Dubois, yeah, he wasn't noticeable in the game, but you have to work your way into a system. He did still play over 17, a little bit over 17 minutes. So obviously they trusted him to put him out there. He just is still growing and learning the system, but he'll get there. But obviously they didn't need him yesterday. They absolutely trounced the Ottawa Senators 5-1, and the stats and he killed them. And everyone else in Ellers had a fantastic game. He'd probably be my player of the game with how he looked with stats. And yesterday both looked very active on the ice. So yeah, I would say that game was no contest almost 10 minutes in. Like it looked like the Jets were going to have that game, even though there were more shots for the. That's the funny thing with the Senators this year. They've lost quite a few games. They outshot their opponent.
Yeah, because they're
It's
shooting
just
from
yeah,
outside. They're sort of
because they're
like the
shooting from.
Montreal
That's what I
Canadiens
was
of.
going to say. They're shooting. Yeah, they're shooting from Winnipeg when they're playing in Ottawa.
Yeah,
So yeah, they definitely do not get the most ample shots on goal.
and that combined with the fact that they got a lot of rookies on there that are probably holding their sticks too tight too, right? Like they're everything's new to them, and that's probably part of the reason as well. I was just looking up. I'm trying to find Winnipeg to look at their depth chart to see where they played Dubois yesterday because I didn't watch a lot of this game. I did at the end because I had the under on this game at 6.5. And Ottawa, of course, scared the crap out of me. Every game is a freaking sweat this year. It's, swear to God, it's crazy.
Yeah, I watched the video last night that you did that usually you do in the morning, but you put it out last night before falling asleep. Yeah, you said that every game's been a lot more of a sweat this year than normal.
Yeah.
He was centering Kyle Connor and Blake Wheeler, according to Cap Friendly.
No, isn't that funny? Connor and Wheeler, right? And then Shifley, Lowry, Stastny, and put Stastny on the wing. So Stastny,
They put
Stastny
yeah,
goes on the wing.
and then Andrew Kopp, who's having a very great start, went to the
That
top
makes sense.
line. Yeah, he's been playing really well this year. He's another surprising player that I'm sure John might mention if he continues to do surprising like breakout guys in the year because he's obviously a solid player,
Oh
but
crap!
12 points.
Dubois got injured last night apparently.
Yeah, I just saw I was about that. I just brought it up. What did he injure?
It doesn't say. It says undisclosed.
Undisclosed day. Yeah, that's unfortunate for him. He'll have to. Yeah, that's not what you want when you just come into a new team and you're learning the system already. You're back out to have to learn the. I mean, the one benefit I guess could be you have a lot of time to study the books. At
Yeah,
least you can learn the system that way. But some guys don't learn the systems that well by studying schemes. They have to actually be on the ice. Depends on the player.
yeah. They played 7 defensemen last night. Boy, what are they looking? Oh, Tucker Poolman came back. So Logan Stanley is going to. They couldn't bring it upon themselves to have Logan Stanley out. Uh, but I'm Matt.
He's a big dude.
He's
He's a big that
very
dude is.
big, very, and he's got a mean
He,
streak back into his game now.
yeah, that guy. I mean, that guy's a guy that definitely you don't want to mess with him. You don't want to find him in an alley.
6'9". Yeah, but he see the thing is, when he was drafted, he went lower because he didn't really have a mean streak, but he certainly does now. He's hurting guys,
Yeah,
uh, so that's going to keep him in there for sure. They don't want to if he's playing the way he's supposed to, and it's not even like natural for him. Really hard to take him out of the lineup.
no, that's entirely true. Yeah, he's a guy. Like I said, you never want to meet him in a dark alley.
For sure, he's a big, big boy. Uh, okay,
Winsky's
we'll
back.
talk about this
They,
Golden Knights Ducks game, and let me say this: did you see the helmets last night?
No, I was. That's the game I didn't catch the later game because I was out and then tired last night. I didn't have the stamina to stay up for this
Okay,
one.
well, wait before you go.
I saw Kumquat's goal, but other than that, I
Did you
didn't
see the
see the
helmets they were wearing
for the Ducks or for the.
for the Golden Knights, man? It's one thing. It's
Oh,
one thing to lose to the Anaheim Ducks.
the bright
It's
gold
another
helmets.
thing to lose to the Anaheim Ducks while looking like you're wearing something from Masters of the Universe. They look like He-Man helmets or something. It was, oh my gosh. I actually, when I saw it, I thought
Oh, yeah,
the
the
Golden Knights
bright
are going
gold.
to lose this game. They lost. They look like they are like wearing kids helmets from He-Man Masters of the Universe or something like that. I guess the good part about that is that's exactly what it's in the market there for to do that. But when I saw them, it's got to make you feel kind of stupid, maybe, right? Like,
Yeah, it's funny how much they pop. They definitely pop like those neon jerseys that the Stars have. I mean, like they definitely pop big time. In terms of the game, though, the Ducks have a good guy that's keen to their future success that keeps looking very good. And Comtois got hot again after getting hot to start the year, a little bit middle gap, and then got hot again. Was the only guy that was able to score. So that's a positive for Anaheim being able to continue to see that 22-year-old have success because obviously they want him to be part of their future core.
Max Comtois, yeah, I've always liked him.
Yeah.
I've always liked
Yeah.
him, but
Apparently, I think I remember seeing a story where actually I saw it in the offseason. He was actually playing roller
yeah,
hockey to stay in shape.
yeah.
Yeah. which was kind of funny. He was playing with local area people to stay in shape and kind of keep his skates under him. That was a funny thing to read about.
Yeah. Vegas just came out completely flat, and I don't know. I swear to God, wearing the helmets had something to do with it. I really, when I saw them wear the helmets, I'm like, they're gonna lose this game. They're gonna lose this game. I just think that you gotta have. It kind of makes you feel silly. It really,
Yeah, those were actually hilarious.
huh?
Yeah, it was actually hilarious how much they popped on the ice, the gold helmets. But it's Vegas. You're supposed to have flashiness. That's what
Yeah.
people want, and it's going to for the market there. Nobody cares what anyone else thinks. They just care about selling it to their market
I have
there.
a feeling that they kind of surprised him about it, though. I think they were kind of taken aback. If they would have did it sooner and let him know, this is for kids, go out and have fun and all that kind of stuff like that. Maybe I don't know. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling they kind of surprised them. I think it's a great idea as long as the guys understand we're doing it for the kids, right? That's really what it's all about. Those are going to sell. The kids are going to love them. Kids will love that
Yeah,
stuff.
those helmets. Yeah, for sure. Exactly. It's a marketing thing. It's a thing to help grow the team more and get fan share from the younger population.
Absolutely, and they absolutely need to do that in Vegas. And what I do love about Vegas, I'm going to defend them here because I know a lot of people aren't defending them. They are willing to go outside of the box to be successful there, and this is certainly that. It kind of reminds me. I don't know if you ever seen it on YouTube. There was a guy that his son wanted to wear his Superman outfit to go to the mall. And the father said, no, not unless I can too. And he went and bought one. And they both went to the mall in their Superman. It's freaking awesome. Check it out, man. They're like hiding behind cars, and it was freaking brilliant. But that sort of reminds me of that. Like that'll sell when you see your idols wearing something that's all flashy and looking like superhero like. You're gonna buy that for sure. I think it's a great idea. I just really I get the feeling that they kind of surprised these guys with it, and they kind of felt a little foolish.
Yeah, we probably should. I don't want to move anything, but it's
You got to get
4:45,
going.
and I started the call.
Yeah.
So once I leave, it is going to end like it usually does. So we probably should move on to the next game. I have until 5 o'clock, but we're at the 15-minute mark. So
Okay. Well, what's the last game here?
we have Calgary and Canucks. We didn't talk about, and then the other was a blowout by the Kings. The Kings absolutely
Yeah,
demolished. That's the
we
game
won't
that
talk
Chuck.
much about that.
Yeah,
San Jose's in big trouble. To lose again to a Kings team like that, that is pretty beat up. I know LA is always going to work hard, right? And that's a problem. If you're losing to a Kings team like that, it's because you got outworked.
yeah, Kopitar had a great snipe. Grunstrom's been complimented all year. Looked good. Wagner scored after coming out of the penalty box. He got a nice pass that just ended up being in the right place at the right time type thing there. But yeah, that was just a game that was a blowout. Not much more about that.
Yeah, I watched it for a little bit, but yeah, that's all I got to say is San Jose. Well, of course, they've been on the road for a ridiculous amount of time too, so we'll give them a little
Yep.
bit of rope until they can hopefully get home sometime. As
Yeah.
far as Vancouver, Calgary, I'm very disappointed with the Vancouver Canucks here. I had them last night. Maybe a little too soon. Like you guys were saying yesterday, it was their first game back at home and stuff like that. But they did get a little bit of rest. And they did outshoot Calgary. But I thought Calgary looked like they had the upper hand, even though they were outshot a lot of the game.
They did. They did. Giordano, the former, obviously a Norris winner himself, had a good night last night, being able to get a goal, and then Monahan and Lindholm continued to look good. They obviously facilitated that goal, um, and it was a game that everybody. And then Giordano had an assist again on Mangiapane's goal, who continues to get better as time goes on. So they have guys that are continuing to look better. Mangiapane is example A of a guy that keeps trending up. Um, and then you have a bunch of guys that have just kept doing their thing. Goudreau's back to being Goudreau. So it seems like even if he doesn't want to be there, he's playing because he wants to leave. at least. So he's playing really well, regardless of what the reasoning is. So it definitely seems like they're in the right spot. Markstrom's working out pretty well this far. Obviously, I mean, he has a 921 and a 236, one of the best in the league to start this far at 7-3-1. So that seems everything seems to be falling into place. Things that people doubted seem to be getting undoubted very quickly with the Calgary Flames for guys they brought in. So it seems like they're going to be a pretty productive team this year as long as Jake stays healthy. Their defense keeps playing the way it is now, and you have everyone else like the Giordano needs to stay healthy too because you have to have that veteran presence on the defense. As long as the key guys stay healthy, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I mean, and Valimaki, we talked about him. He's just moving up the chart. Hannavan's playing his best season probably. Not worrying about offense so much, just playing a strong defensive game, much the same as a guy that he was compared to by that is actually a really good comparison, I think. When he was drafted, I can't remember who it is, but it was a scout that said he thinks he was going to turn out to like a guy like Brett Hedican, and that's a really good comparison. I think where Hannafin's game is going, and if he can become that fantastic, played 22 minutes a night last night. A guy that you might again we can talk about with the early possible Jack Adams that doesn't get much talk about is Jeff Ford because there was a lot of question marks, me included, and of course the goat John he was talking about it too. A lot of question marks in this lineup after all the changes. But as you said, a lot of players are having much better years and with the question marks of Goudreau. Goudreau's back on the path again. Backlund's having a good year. Um, yeah, there's a lot of players rowing at the right in the right direction right now.
Yeah,
And Freeze, remember they played Freeze again. Mangiapane,
yeah,
Mangiapane's having a great
might be
year.
a trending upwards. Like I said, yeah, he keeps looking better by the minute. And hockey rumors, thanks for joining. We appreciate it. If you're still here, Pesce, according to Cap Friendly, ain't out. It was he got banged up, but according to Cap Friendly, that didn't get updated to being day to day. He seems like he's fine and able to go. So that's the last thing I think that you have going out. But we really appreciate you joining. Thanks for joining. Thanks for the thumbnails, and stay safe this weekend. Did we want to move on to tonight's games now? Because I still have about 10 minutes if we wanted to talk about those.
Sure. Like I said, I was disappointed with Vancouver. I thought Demko looked good. Demko looks fine, but Vancouver as a whole, I don't know. They got to find it. We've talked and probably talked about it to death with Vancouver. So sure, let's go into tonight's games really quick. How many games is there tonight?
Two.
Two, right. Rangers, Boston, that's the big one.
Mm-hmm.
No Panarin for the Rangers.
Yeah, that's going to hurt them, especially against the Bees team. That's the biggest reason why I don't think they're going to beat the Boston Bruins, especially at home. The Bruins are away, but at home without having Panarin, you're not even playing well in general. It's not going to help you anymore not having Panarin. So, Kaku's looked all right on the ice. Laffy's looked all right on the ice. If you can get more from the point totals from them in one game to step up for missing Artemi Panarin, then maybe you could actually have them upset Boston, but they haven't been scoring. They've just looked smart. Those guys have looked smart on the ice, like they can play at the NHL level. It's just it hasn't translated to stats yet.
Yeah.
So until that happens, you can't have Panarin out for New York, or they're not going to go anywhere. And that's why I think the Bruins will take this one.
Yeah, the only real way that I think the Rangers have a chance tonight, although they have been playing better as a team every game, they're improving as a team, which is good. They could surprise because of that. Shosturkin is in net, and Halak is in net for Boston. But
Yep.
really, Halak in a one game isn't really much different than Rask, right?
Yeah, that's obviously. I mean, you win the Masterson for a reason. You don't just throw that around as candy. So, I mean, yeah, they definitely earned that, and he's one of the best, if not the best, backup in hockey. So,
Yeah, all of New York Rangers power play has been brutal this year. Only 13%. Boston's 31. So they don't want to be taking penalties. And with Panarin being out, they might have a couple of guys playing higher up in the lineup where that's exactly what happens. They end up being
Yeah.
behind on the play, and they're hooking and
Which will
stuff
be
like that.
interesting to see because if they take bad penalties, the Bruins have a top six power play. The Rangers have a top 10 penalty kill. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there with that. That's actually probably the best part, which is funny because the Rangers' overall defense is not ranked high, but for some reason their penalty kill is eighth. So go figure.
Yeah, I do believe the Rangers had some pretty good face-off stats. No, it was the other way around. Boston has them on face-offs by quite a bit, which makes sense because they're veterans, right?
Yeah, Boston's the
Bergeron,
best
Krejci,
team usually.
Krejci,
Yeah,
what's
it's like a,
Charlie Coyle, who doesn't get talked enough a lot in that lineup, has been a big addition for Boston. That doesn't,
Yeah, my friend that's a Wild fan does not like the fact that Charlie Coyle's having a lot of success in Boston. Let's just put it that way.
Well, I mean, he can blame his own team for that, of course,
No, that's what he
because
does. He does. Yeah.
yeah, that's good because Charlie they tried to make Charlie Coyle out to be something that he's not. He's a third line guy who's going to give you 25 to 30 points and play strong defense, like maybe a higher end Jay Beagle, you know. And if you're trying to make him out to be more than that, which they were, you'll end up being disappointed and trading him off and looking foolish, which they did. What did
Hmm.
he? Hockey News Report said that what's his name could be back in today. Uh, but that was a Minnesota player, I think, so it doesn't really matter.
That was a
Yeah, it was a
Minnesota. Yeah,
Minnesota
that
player,
doesn't
so it doesn't really matter.
affect us. Yeah.
Okay, and the next game then, I don't know what to do with St. Louis and Arizona. I don't know.
At this point, I'm gonna roll with the Yotes just because they seem to have St. Louis's number, and until they don't, I'm just gonna go with them. It seems like Dvorak's playing great. Osterley's obviously Jordan Osterley's been doing better since going down there. Doing good. He already has 5 points. Look good in his own zone. Good for him. Garland's continuing to do well, and then you have Keller seems to be getting more confident. He hasn't started the season as you would hope, but he had that nice assist by Dvorak. He seems to be coming along. So I think I'll just roll with the Yotes until they don't have their number. That just seems like they have St. Louis's number this year.
Yeah, I Arizona's one of the Rick Tocchet led teams that's going to outwork you. And for St. Louis to be losing to them, they're getting outworked. Simple as that. If St. Louis, and that's something you just don't hear about St. Louis, is Peter Angelo that much of a rah rah guy to get things going there that they can't find the energy within themselves to outwork the opposition? Because on paper, they should really be blowing Arizona right out of the water here.
Oh, agree.
Except for
Yeah.
Kemper, that's it. I'm going to go with Arizona just because I love Talkett. But honestly, I'm probably fading this game altogether. It should be an under, but it's been going over. And when I go over, it goes under. As sometimes you just don't even bother with certain teams. And right now, it's those two teams I can't figure out.
Yep.
So
And
you're on your way out now, are you?
yep, yeah, I have. I just got a call actually from the person I have an appointment with in a couple minutes. I'd have to call back. They called early, so yeah. It's been a pleasure joining everybody again. This is always great talking about the week of hockey, where I obviously have your great weekend recap on Monday. If I'll be on, others will be on. Maybe we'll see what happens. Still supposed to be more active again next week. It'll be on John's show tonight, so definitely check that out. But as you say, yeah, I think that's our full 42.
Yeah, you go ahead. You go off on my. I'll see if anybody talks here for a bit, and then I'll shut her down. Thanks, Joe, for coming out. You do
Yep.
what you do, buddy. I'll see. And for everybody else, Monday we'll be doing the weekend review, which we do, and we'll start our 5 days a week. We're here for.